The man was secretly touching the nurse's black stockings just a second ago. In the next second, the nurse had him pinned against the wall. "You've been touching for so long. It must be very comfortable. You have to take responsibility for me." Just because the man was caught secretly touching a thigh and refused to admit it. He even turned around and beat up the female nurse. Being heartless, he turned around and ran away. It turns out that the nurse was a ghost in the mental hospital. He relied on touching thighs to finally light up spirituality and awaken as a spirit master, but ran into a dead end while trying to escape. In the end, he couldn't escape the pursuit of the female ghost nurse. After being reborn, he headed for the door to the north this time. Behind the door was an elevator. Fortunately, it still worked. However, the elevator's startup speed was too slow. Seeing that the female ghost nurse was about to catch up, Hugh frantically pressed the close button, hoping the elevator would close faster. But just as the elevator was about to close, a large white hand reached out from outside and blocked the elevator door. Immediately, Hugh was enveloped by the large hand. This time, he didn't escape again. It seems the northern door is also a dead end. In the next second, Hugh died. The third time, it was the southern door. Inside was a chaotic operating room. Various medical supplies were scattered everywhere. Not only was there no other escape route, but he was also chased by the female ghost doctor. Hugh was cornered against the wall by her, not daring to move. The female doctor stared at Hugh with a look that said, "I've got you." The next second, Hugh died again. Reincarnating once more, only the door to the east remained. If there's no way out behind this door this time, I will have to give up the scalpel. Fortunately, the east path was indeed the way out. Hugh was thinking of a strategy. Although the female doctor's speed far surpasses mine, I can use Death Rewind to predict her attack trajectory. In a sense, if used properly, Death Rewind is equivalent to foreseeing the future after being reborn. Hugh quickly walked through the corridor looking for the exit. He still had an impression of this place. When he'd previously wandered around the psychiatric hospital, he remembered that there was a security passage to the left ahead. But in the next second, a tuft of black hair attacked Hugh from behind, encircling his head completely. Hugh died again. After experiencing death 23 times, Hugh was infinitely close to the safe passage. Next time, he would certainly make it. Reborn once more, coming into the hall, Hugh held nothing back. He directly led everyone to the door to the east. They also followed Hugh as their backbone. Not long after everyone entered the east door, they heard the screams of the female doctor behind them. The ceiling was also shaking violently. Amid their terrified screams, the female doctor appeared on the ceiling. Everyone frantically pushed and ran, fearing they would be the last. However, the female doctor directly ignored them. It went straight towards Hugh, who was holding the scalpel. At this moment, Hugh was running frantically without looking back. He was already well aware of the female doctor's attack. His good brother Dennis was instantly shocked. However, he hadn't finished speaking. The scene before him left him stunned. He saw that it was as if Hugh had eyes on his back. He just slightly turned his head and precisely dodged the attack from the female physician's hand, as if he had foreseen it in advance. The female physician looked shocked. How did he know the direction of my attack from behind? Hugh looked at the female physician and sneered. "How could your attacks escape the prophecy of someone like me?" The man is an immortal prophet who can infinitely reincarnate. At this moment, he is being hunted by a female ghost physician because he can foresee the correct escape routes and even accurately predict the attack trajectories of the female physician. He only needs to tilt his head slightly to easily avoid a fatal blow. The female ghost doctor suddenly froze. How is this possible? Even if it were a spirit master, it would be impossible to evade my attack so easily. Dennis, standing nearby, was dumbfounded. Hugh is really incredible, being able to evade an attack from behind so precisely. Hugh let out a cold laugh. He ignored them and continued running deeper into the corridor. Every second was a matter of life and death now. He had to seize the time to escape. The female doctor, regaining her senses, immediately launched herself forward. Endless hatred surged like a ferocious evil ghost, but Hugh crouched down again to dodge. These attacks were all within his expectations. Then came the third strike. The fourth strike. The female ghost doctor's large hand transformed into afterimages, striking continuously. But Hugh was always able to make the most precise response at the most critical moment. During this time, he experienced several death resets. With his reaction speed enhanced after unlocking spirituality, he confidently dodged each attack, narrowly but successfully avoiding danger. This scene made his good friend Dennis admire him immensely, and cheer wildly for Hugh. "Go, Hugh! Keep going! Keep going!" Hugh's repeated dodging made the female doctor extremely angry. She felt as if she was being played with. Its eyes immediately began to glow red. It pounced directly from the ceiling. The entire ground started to shake. The female doctor resembled a huge humanoid female spider. It opened its bloody maw and lunged towards Hugh. Just as it was about to catch up, Hugh suddenly stumbled. It was as if he had tripped over something. His body lost balance and lurched forward. Hugh fell without any chance to avoid it. Earlier, he had anticipated and dodged all attacks. But what to do about this attack? The female ghost doctor in front of him was about to rush forward. But Hugh did not stop running. He turned and rolled towards the hallway on the left. He was about to reach the safety passage. He needed to try a few more times. The female ghost doctor suddenly punched a big hole. If Hugh hadn't dodged in time, he would have turned into a puddle of mud. The female doctor who missed again felt an unprecedented sense of humiliation. She stared at Hugh with increasing ferocity. The three bystanders watching the drama were all dumbfounded, feeling a sense of dizziness. Hugh easily dodged the female ghost's attack. Dennis was envious. Is this what a spirit master is? It's simply amazing. I also want to be like Hugh. However, what they did not know is that Hugh managed to achieve these incredible skills only after dying a total of 23 times. The female ghost doctor turned around and continued to chase Hugh. Hugh finally saw the sign emitting a green glow. This was his first time reaching this place. He knew he would have to die a few more times to figure out how to evade. Although he didn't know if it was safe behind the emergency exit, it was currently the only way out. But at that moment, Hugh noticed something was wrong. After entering the green channel, the female ghost suddenly stopped. Even though Hugh was right in front of her, she didn't dare to take another step forward. The whole ghost was trembling. It was unwilling to stop there, yet it didn't dare to move forward. It was both angry and scared. 2.5 seconds later, the terrified female doctor kept retreating. She let out a piercing scream and turned to run. Hugh was completely bewildered. What is she afraid of? Is she afraid of me? Or is she afraid of what might be behind the door? The man was heartlessly ruthless, yet he was pinned against the wall by the female nurse. It was just because he was caught stealthily touching her thigh. Not wanting to take responsibility, he turned tail and ran, explaining as he went. Touching the thigh is just to ignite spirituality and become a spirit master. However, the female doctor didn't listen to his excuses at all. Holding a scalpel, she chased after him. Thus began an endless pursuit and escape between the two. But Hugh repeatedly avoided capture through death respawns. The female doctor pursued relentlessly, but couldn't capture Hugh. She knelt humbly in front of Hugh. Please don't leave. Will you stay with me? Hugh was indifferent to this, because all he could think about was his wife alone at home. The heartbroken female ghost doctor turned and ran away. She ran headlong into Dennis, who was watching the scene. A ball of flesh hit his face directly, distorting his features. The female doctor bypassed the three and fled directly. Despite her hatred, she did not attack anyone. At this moment, Dennis was dumbfounded. He complained to Hugh. Hugh, someone just body-checked me. I want to report her. The two spectators were still in a daze. Just moments ago, they were fleeing for their lives. They didn't expect to suddenly become safe, and couldn't help but feel a sense of joy. "Good buddy," Dennis asked with concern. "Are you all right? How did that ghost suddenly run away?" Hugh shook his head, indicating that he was fine. He then began to analyze seriously, according to the normal plot inference. After exiting through the emergency exit, there is a way to survive. However, Dennis was puzzled. "But what?" "Hugh, there's no ghost chasing us right now." Hugh pointed to the main door's emergency exit sign and said seriously. The female doctor saw the sign and fled, indicating that this might not be a real emergency exit. Moreover, it is highly likely that behind the door lurks a ghost that even she fears. The area behind the door is engulfed in darkness, exuding an eerie aura, like a giant abyssal mouth ready to devour humans. While Hugh was pondering, the two spectators ran over and saw the emergency exit. "Hugh, why aren't you leaving? Is there something wrong with this exit?" Seeing that Hugh did not move, although they wanted to escape quickly, they were not foolish enough to go ahead and scout the way. "Let's take a break before moving on," said Hugh, and then he pulled Dennis to sit down. He closed his eyes to rest. The most important thing right now is to recover spirituality. Even the female doctor was scared away. So, it is necessary to stay in the best condition before exploring the path again. Everyone had no choice but to rest on the spot. From the moment the ghost appeared until now, they had been running away. Their physical strength had long been severely exhausted. They indeed needed to regain their strength. 2.5 minutes later, Hugh suddenly opened his eyes. He sprang up from the ground in an instant. As a spirit master, his recovery speed was more than 1,000 times faster than ordinary people. The sudden movement startled the three of them. "We had just sat down not long ago. Hugh, have you already recovered?" Hugh simply said, "Let's go!" Then he walked towards the emergency exit. Out. Hugh finally escaped from the Erie Psychiatric Hospital. Just now, after resting for 2.5 hours, Hugh finally recovered his spirituality. He led Dennis and others towards the dark passage. He walked very slowly, constantly paying attention to the surroundings. What exactly is behind this emergency exit? It actually made the terrifying female ghost doctor flee in panic. Hugh reached towards the walls on both sides to guard against any hidden danger that might suddenly arise. As everyone continued to go deeper, it became so quiet that only the sound of footsteps remained. Behind them, Dennis and the others were drenched in cold sweat, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. There was an unshakable fear in their eyes, and they didn't even dare to take a deep breath. But so far, nothing has happened. The more this continued, the more uneasy Hugh felt. The female doctor couldn't have let us go for no reason. There must be some danger hidden here. Could the real danger be behind the door? Finally, they arrived in front of the door. Looking from the outside, it was pitch black behind the door, and nothing could be seen. Hugh frantically shifted his perception. However, as soon as his perception penetrated to the other side of the door, it disappeared as if sinking into the sea. Hugh's hand, poised to open the door, stopped midair. At this moment, he hesitated. The world behind the door was incredibly bizarre. He had no idea what dangers might be waiting. But he still decided to open the door. Rather than staying here and being killed by the female doctor, it was better to explore the world beyond the door. He pushed open the door. It was empty inside. A pitch-black silence pervaded. Even the light was devoured. Dennis peeked in. "Hugh, is there really a way out in here? There won't be any danger, right?" Hugh responded calmly. "Even if there's danger, we must proceed." He hesitated not at all and directly stepped through the door. Inside, it was like the giant maw of an abyss, slowly swallowing his silhouette. Darkness. Pitch-black darkness. Here, one couldn't see anything at all. Dennis and the others around me also disappeared. I don't know if they followed. Even more eerie is that the previously clear footsteps can no longer be heard. It is a dead silence. Hugh tried to call out to Dennis and the others. He clearly felt his vocal cords vibrating. But he couldn't hear any sound. He turned to look back. The door behind him had also disappeared. Hugh could only feel that he was still alive. He had no sensation from any of his five senses. It was as if his entire being had been swallowed by darkness. In the endless darkness, Hugh could only keep moving forward. At this moment, he didn't even know which direction was forward. But he could only keep walking. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 10 minutes. Half an hour. The sense of time was gradually swallowed by the darkness. But ahead remained a deathly silence. It was as if this road had no end. This endless loneliness and darkness would have already driven an ordinary person to collapse in madness. But it didn't affect Hugh at all, because his heart was even darker than this road. Just when Hugh thought he would be trapped in the darkness, a ray of light suddenly appeared before his eyes. A layer of blurred shadow came into view. Then the light gradually expanded. The darkness seemed to recede like a tide. Familiar scenes around him continued to appear. Hugh was stunned. Because he made it out. Yes, Hugh had escaped from the mental hospital. At this moment, he found himself standing in the middle of the road. On both sides, there were various beautifully landscaped green belts. It was the tree-lined avenue leading to White Willow Academy. My wife kills me 1,000 times. I treat my wife like a first love. The first thing Hugh wanted to do after escaping the mysterious realm was to return to his wife. Just now, after walking in the endless darkness for 2.5 hours, Hugh finally escaped from the Erie Psychiatric Hospital. Looking back, Dennis and the other two who had just vanished also emerged from the mysterious realm. At this moment, they were all panting heavily. Good brother Dennis was overjoyed. Great, Hugh, we finally escaped the mysterious realm. The other two people were filled with disbelief and ecstatic joy at having survived. Did we really just escape like this? Quickly, without any hesitation, the two of them ran towards a crowded place. Dennis suggested, Hugh, let's leave quickly too. What if the female doctor comes running out from inside? Hugh frowned. He felt that something was off. He carefully examined his surroundings. Where exactly was this place? At that moment, he was shocked to discover that there were no eerie traces around him. The mysterious psychiatric hospital had vanished. When he arrived here in the morning, he could clearly see the psychiatric hospital and the sales office overlapping each other. Now, only White Willow Academy remained. The most eerie thing is, why did the departure go so smoothly? No danger occurred. Even the female ghost doctor was scared away from the safe passage. They couldn't believe that they actually made it through safely. Could it be that the female ghost doctor is restricted by some reason and cannot leave the mental hospital? So, when she saw the safe passage, she was scared away. Dennis came over and interrupted Hugh's thoughts. Hugh, let's go back quickly. Today's events have really exhausted me. We have to go to work tomorrow. How about taking a day off and resting tomorrow? Hugh looked at Dennis in shock, who had just experienced a life-and-death escape. This guy is still thinking about work. At that moment, Hugh discovered something extremely terrifying. They were gone. All the ghosts were gone. At this moment, Hugh was completely panicked. He quickly looked around. What on earth was happening? There used to be countless ferocious and terrifying ghosts spreading all over the streets. But now the streets were actually empty. Not a single one could be seen. All the ghosts had disappeared. Hugh ran out anxiously. Dennis was completely puzzled. Hugh, what's wrong with you? Hugh did not respond. He was frantically running around and muttering to himself. No, you can't disappear. He seemed utterly mad. I can accept escaping safely. I can accept the mysterious disappearance of the mental hospital. But the only thing I cannot accept is that all the ghosts have disappeared. If they have all disappeared, how can I seek revenge? Especially my dearest wife, you absolutely cannot disappear. Hugh rushed into the street to stop a car with his body. Dennis urgently shouted, Hugh, what are you doing? Get back quickly. It's dangerous there. However, Hugh was minding his own business, trying to hail a cab in the heavy traffic. He was eager to get home to see if his wife was still there. The whole world can disappear, but not you. You can only die in my hands. How can I live without you? You must wait for me at home. This is a sinister and bizarre world, and humans are the outliers. Hugh, who just escaped from the deathly silent mysterious realm. He discovered that the ghosts all over the streets had actually disappeared. He anxiously searched everywhere, but found nothing. He then went to the street and hailed a taxi. After Hugh got into the car, he hurriedly urged the driver to go straight to the rental house. After getting in the car, he looked panicked. His whole body couldn't stop trembling. He kept muttering, "You can't leave." Facing the ghost Hugh, he could remain calm. Even the ferocious and terrifying evil ghost never made him afraid. But at this moment, he showed a look of terror. He was afraid his wife would suddenly disappear. 10 minutes later, the taxi arrived at the entrance of the community where Hugh lived. Seeing that he was about to reach home, Hugh didn't hesitate for a moment. He burst out of the car and ran towards his rental unit. The driver shouted, "You haven't paid yet!" But the driver didn't pursue the matter. Seeing Hugh, the driver guessed that his wife had probably run off with someone else. "He's a pitiable man indeed." The driver sighed and then drove away. Hugh ran all the way. The neighborhood is just like the outside world. He couldn't see any ghosts. At this moment, his mental state became increasingly abnormal. The terror inside him kept intensifying. He ran upstairs like a madman. Deep within his spirituality, he kept roaring, "The whole world can disappear, except for you." Hugh pushed the door open and dashed into the house. Inside, it was empty with no trace of his wife. Hugh shouted in a state of collapse, "Wife, where are you? Come out quickly. I can see you." He searched frantically. The living room was empty. Hugh's mental state was completely breaking down. Suddenly, his mind went blank. He collapsed to the ground in despair. "You killed me 18 times. Without you, how will I live for the rest of my life? Who will make me breakfast? Without you, the whole world is gray." 2.5 hours later, Hugh's eyes were lifeless. He seemed like a walking corpse. He had died dozens of times. He had been driven mad by his wife as well. He had broken down. But in the end, he always survived. Madness and hatred pulled his sanity back from the edge of hell. The obsession with killing his wife sustained him. He wanted to take revenge on all the ghosts in the world, making them feel his pain. That was the meaning of Hugh's existence. Now the ghosts suddenly disappeared. What will he do with all his hatred? What is the meaning of living now? Hugh lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling for the entire night. He seemed to have lost his soul, listless and with a vacant stare. The next morning, his good brother Dennis called. On the other end of the line, the tone was anxious. "Hugh, quickly check the news. Reports say White Willow Academy is on fire." Hearing about what happened yesterday, Hugh regained his composure. He suddenly sat up in bed and picked up his phone to search for news information. The news content directly stunned him. White Willow Academy. The list of deaths is as follows: Prince, Roger, Hugh, Dennis. He discovered that he was shockingly on the death list. Hugh returned to his former state. He couldn't help but start trembling. Suddenly burst into a fit of mad laughter. I, who possessed the ability to respawn from death, actually died. How interesting. In other words, the ghosts have not disappeared. They are just hiding and playing hide-and-seek with me. Even this world without ghosts is itself an illusion created by the ghosts. Suddenly Hugh's gaze became gentle. "I knew you hadn't disappeared. My dearest wife, how could I bear to let you leave? The man has a wife as gentle as water. She wants to kill him 18 times a day." Just on this day, he discovered his wife had suddenly disappeared. Without the nurturing of his wife, Hugh lost the meaning of life. He lived as if he were a walking corpse. The next day, a colleague sent a message. He discovered that he, who had the ability to rewind death, actually appeared on the death list. Hugh, who lost his wife, found new hope in life. It turned out that the ghost had not disappeared. They were just playing hide and seek with themselves. Just at that moment, a message popped up in the work group chat.
Manager Roger at Hugh, why haven't you come to work yet?
Immediately following, a barrage of messages ensued, urging Hugh to hurry up and come to work. Looking at this scene on the phone, Hugh couldn't help but laugh out loud. It felt so amusing. He saw with his own eyes that Roger was killed by the female ghost doctor. Clearly, even after dying, he still urges people to go to work. It seems that Roger has become a capitalist ghost after his death. Hugh is eager to go to the company for the first time. Let's see what interesting things the other party can bring. At this moment, red liquid appeared on the phone. As Roger kept urging, a row of bloody words actually appeared on the screen. Do you think that by staying silent, I won't know where you are? Immediately, the blood letters started to gather together, forming a pool of blood. It slowly began to boil and bubble out like boiling water. The next second, the blood gushed out from the phone, coagulating into a gigantic eyeball. It resembled a fierce eyeball, ghost, with bloodshot veins staring directly at Hugh. Roger's eerie voice actually came from the eyeball. Get over here to work immediately. Hugh grabbed the eyeball. I can go to work. But don't take up my phone's memory. With that, Hugh pulled it off the phone. The eyeballs dissolved into the air like foam. Is this all an illusion? Then go to the company and see what interesting things might happen. Immediately, Hugh set off again on his bicycle. Arriving at White Willow Academy, Hugh was surprised to find the entire sales office had been burned black by a fire. But Hugh didn't care. He directly crossed the police line and went inside. Inside, it was also severely burned. The smell of burning could still be smelled. All the deceased colleagues had started working. At that moment, Faye discovered Hugh. She went up to greet him. You came quite early today. Hugh took the opportunity to walk up. He reached out to test Faye's large ball. Is this real? The feeling upon touching it was warm, full, and elastic. Her proud parts were caressed. Faye blushed shyly. Hugh sneered. Then he pushed her away. As expected, it was an illusion. Because he vividly remembered Faye being so full. It was all because of 2 pieces of silicone. He was killed once because of it. Hugh walked straight to the 2nd floor. He saw his good brother Dennis rushing out. Hugh, were you also dragged here to work? No, I came to the company because I like working. Where is Roger? Dennis was taken aback, then immediately reacted. He pointed inside and said, He is in the office. Hugh looked around, his expression gradually becoming serious. Unexpectedly, the colleagues he remembered as dead were still working. Capital Ghost even exploits the labor of the dead. This is a world where capital ghosts run rampant. Everyone's labor is exploited by capital. In life, you are a worker. In death, you are a working ghost. You can't escape a lifetime of being a worker. Every day, they will urge you to hurry up and come to work. Otherwise, they will threaten you by turning into a ghost. Hugh arrived at the company after the fire. At this time, all the deceased colleagues were working at their posts, exactly as they were when alive. Just as Hugh was about to look for Roger. In the manager's office, before seeing him, his voice was heard. Why are you just coming to work now? Immediately, he appeared out of nowhere and pointed at Hugh's nose, cursing him. Why didn't you reply when I mentioned you in the group? Do you know the consequences are very serious? Hugh calmly said. When will my commission be paid? Roger, furious, slammed the table. With you slacking off at work like this, you still have the nerve to talk to me about commissions? It's already good that I haven't fired you. Hugh continued to look at him indifferently. Even in death, you are still so repugnant. As soon as the words were spoken, Roger became furious. Pointing at Hugh, he started to curse again. Who are you cursing? Who's dead, you say? Can you even speak properly? I'm alive and well. It's you who's dead. His mouth was like a fountain, spewing out curses that resounded throughout the entire office. It drew colleagues away from their work to watch the commotion. In the next second, Hugh suddenly rushed forward. A flash of silver light streaked by. The entire world suddenly fell silent. Hugh held a silver scalpel. It was directly stabbed into Roger's fat neck. Roger looked terrified, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't make any sound. A sharp scalpel made a swift cut, and blood gushed from Roger's neck like a fountain. Roger's fat body fell down accordingly, unable to move any more. Hugh's indifferent eyes stared straight at Roger. Then he gave an evil smile. Isn't this just death? Just at that moment, a strange feeling came over. The colleagues in the office suddenly froze, as if controlled by something. They stood stiffly upright. Even my good buddy Dennis was the same. His face was as pale and indifferent as a ghost. Hugh tried to wake Dennis up. Dennis, wake up! In the next second, Dennis's entire face started to twist bizarrely. His eyeballs bulged out suddenly. Everyone's bodies also underwent horrific mutations. They kept swelling and growing larger, transforming from human shapes into various terrifying and grotesque monsters. Watching the scene in front of him, Hugh thought to himself, could this be a transformation? Without hesitation, he pulled out a scalpel to gather strength. He certainly wouldn't foolishly wait for the ghost to complete its transformation. He needed to interrupt the spellcasting on the other side ahead of time. With that, he charged forward. Being a spirit master, his explosive power was more than 10 times that of an ordinary person. Hugh went all out. Under the influence of spirituality, he unleashed astonishing speed and attack power, continually flickering among the crowd. The ghost that was still transforming had its neck slit. Its heart was hollowed out. In an instant, Hugh moved around the entire office area. All of his colleagues were killed by him. Hugh gazed at everything indifferently. Have you had enough fun? If you've had enough, come out. The corpses of the people suddenly began to melt. As if sinking into water, they disappeared. Even the company's sales office gradually shattered like glass. Behind the fragments was the security corridor of the psychiatric hospital. Dennis and the other two could be seen lying in the corridor, their bodies slumped. Their faces were twisted with fear. They continuously let out cries of pain from their mouths. Sure enough, everything before was an illusion. Hugh and the others had not yet escaped from the mental hospital. These are 2 ordinary lumps of silicone. However, they saved the man's life. Because Hugh had just touched his colleague's private parts. It felt soft, smooth, warm, and full to the touch. At this moment, Hugh realized something was wrong. Faye's chest was clearly silicone. It couldn't possibly be this soft. It seems that everything in front of him was an illusion. Immediately afterward, Hugh killed all his colleagues with a single knife. The sales office also shattered and collapsed as a result. The next second, Hugh found Dennis and the other 2 lying on the ground in a disordered manner. It turned out he was still in the safe passage of the psychiatric hospital. Hugh slowly turned to look deep into the passage. A strange and cold aura continuously seeped out from within, as if a fierce evil ghost was about to emerge. Looking at the scene in front of him, Hugh calmly said, "A dream? It seems this is your ability." Suddenly, a few eyeball ghosts emerged from inside. The next second, a gigantic ghost eye suddenly appeared from the darkness, its entire body wrapped in scarlet smoke, constantly churning. Below it were countless eerie heads. They were extremely ferocious and evil. Ghost Eye stared intently at Hugh and emitted a deep, hoarse, eerie voice. "Human, how did you see through my dream?" Hugh sneered. "You know humans well. The dream was also very realistic." "Unfortunately, you don't understand silicone. The texture is too soft when squeezed." Ghost Eye was confused and didn't understand. What silicone? What texture? Why don't you feel fear in your dreams? Hugh gave a slight, "Huh? It seems you rely on fear to kill." The more fear, the faster one dies. No wonder I appear on the death list. Working even after death is indeed very frightening. But the worst thing you did was create a world without ghosts. All the ghosts disappeared. You made me lose my wife. Is this something a ghost like you should be doing? But thanks to you deliberately creating eerie events, it rekindled my hope and helped me see through the illusion. Ghost, I did not speak. He stared intently at the human before him, as if trying to deeply remember his appearance. A human without fear. I will remember you. Subsequently, the ghost eye gradually faded away. Slowly, it disappeared. Hugh also lowered his guard. The eeriness finally dissipated. It is this dream-controlling ghost that scared away the female ghost doctor. If I'm not mistaken, it's the female doctor who got infected by the scalpel. Probably the weakest ghost in this mental hospital. There is a qualitative difference between being infected and being transformed. Hugh came to his good friend Dennis's side. At this moment, Dennis was choking his own neck tightly. The veins bulged, making him look very ferocious. Hugh reached out to check for breathing and confirmed that Dennis had already stopped breathing. He remembered the previous times when Dennis had sincerely treated him. Every time there was a difficulty, he would lend a helping hand. Hugh decided to die and use a death rollback to save Dennis's life. Immediately, he took out a scalpel and slashed it across his own neck. The next second, everyone returned to the front of the emergency exit. Surprisingly, Ghost's ability is to control dreams, so the best solution is to stay awake. Afterward, they still arrived at the tree-lined avenue. They were in a dream again. Hugh made a throat-slashing gesture once again. It seems inevitable to enter the ghost's dream. To pass the test, Dennis will have to overcome his fears by himself. He then introduced to everyone that there is a ghost in the safe passage. It will create various bizarre events, but everything is fake. Hugh patted Dennis on the shoulder and said, "Dennis, you must remember. As long as you overcome fear, you can survive. If you encounter Faye in the illusion, you can take the opportunity to pinch her impressive parts. Faye is made of silicone. The feel of the real and the fake is different. That is the key to breaking the illusion." Dennis was momentarily stunned and said shyly, But I've never touched the real one.